everybody, it's Stewart Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the second week in March 2014. It's the second week.
Yeah, but you'd never know that when you look outside of the snow.
No, I'm still freezing cold, and it snowed yesterday, but I refused to shovel. But that's part of my story, but not the first one.
What's the first one?
Well, to be quite honest, people, I have a lot of rants today.
Uh-oh.
Rants, not your ants that you put in your tortillas and
your
eat.
pants.
But so I don't have a lot of, in fact I have no links because this came out of my busy head after reading many things, and what I'm going to tell you, you can research yourself online. But of course the biggest story that's going on now, of course, is the disappearance of the Malaysian airliner, a Boeing 777 flight MH370 from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 people on board that lost contact with the air traffic control after just under 2 hours of flight time. And according to all the indications, the weather was fine, there was no distress signal, it just vanished off the face of the earth and never arrived. Now, of course, subsequently, they have found out that 2 passengers were using stolen EU passports. So, of course, that brings up a lot of the issues. For example, one of the people whose passports was stolen is an Austrian person, and I thought I had his name.
No, that's not been released.
Yes, I have his name here.
Because I know I read articles I read said it was not released yet.
Well, I know I had his name.
The Italian is released.
Yes, but they did release it. His name is Christian. Well, I'll have to find. Of course, after I move on, I'll probably find it. But his name was Christian something with a German. It's a German sound. Here it is. His name was Christian Kotzel, and the Austrian's name was Luigi Maraldi. Can't get more Italian.
No, the Italian's name was Luigi.
I just said the Italian's name.
You said the Austrian.
Austrian was Christian Kotzel,
yes,
and the Italian was Luigi Maraldi. Now, the Austrian man had his passport stolen in Thailand 2 years ago. The Italian had his passport stolen in Thailand last August. So we have Thailand as a common denominator here. Both of them are red flagged on the Interpol system, because when your passport is stolen and you're reported, it's flagged in case anyone tries to use it. Well, 2 people used it. Not only did they use it to buy airline tickets, they also used it to check in. So here we have a situation where stolen passports, a sudden disappearance of the plane, a possible onboard explosion, which is very similar tactics are used by the Al-Qaeda militants, supposedly. But I'm suggesting that these people had help on the ground because, first of all, their airline tickets were purchased together. The e-tickets are only one number apart. And we also know that they had onward tickets to Europe after they got to Beijing, so that, where do I have that now? One of them, they both had, yes, they both had flights from Beijing to Amsterdam on KLM, and then the Austrian passport holder was flying on to Frankfurt, and the Italian passport holder was flying on to Copenhagen. So the thing is, one of the things was, well, they should have had a Chinese visa in their passports in order to board the plane, because no airline will allow you to go to the destination if you don't have the appropriate documentation to disembark there.
Well, in fact, we had an issue where somebody actually met you at the plane as we walked off. Remember?
That was in Argentina.
Yep.
And I said, "Do you know who I am?" And they said, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Swerdlow, please just go on. It doesn't matter."
But that's how strict they are.
That's how strict they are. And that was from Ecuador to Argentina,
right.
So hello. And this is Malaysia and China, which are very, you know...
They're going to be checking those documents.
Yes, but my point being that when China recently passed legislation that said if you arrive in Beijing or Shanghai and I think Shenzhou, if you are leaving within 72 hours and you have onward tickets, you do not need a visa if you are from EU or North America. So they didn't need a visa. But here, what I'm trying to say is my suspicions are that they had help on the ground because they bought their tickets via Southern China Airways, which is a partner of Malaysia Airways. And so someone there, because when you buy your tickets, you must give a passport number. So right away, it would have been flagged right then and there, but it wasn't. And then when they checked in to this Malaysian airline does use check for those things. I actually, several years ago, took the Air Malaysia flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, so I know that they do check. Someone on the ground at the counter or the ticket, whoever is checking the passports in, must have been in on this as well. So this was a concerted effort through travel agent, other airline personnel, ground personnel. This was not just using fake passports like this. Now, it gets even more mysterious because just this morning they announced that there may have been 4 passengers who had suspicious identifications. Well, now's a good time to realize that. And they also said that it looks like on radar, military radar indicated the aircraft actually started to turn back to Kuala Lumpur before it vanished. So a lot of questions come up because originally they said whatever happened had to be sudden and catastrophic because there was no distress signal, no clues from the pilot, it just vanished. But now they're saying the plane actually turned around and went off course, or actually looked like it was turning back to Kuala Lumpur. So you have to say, well, if they had the presence of mind to turn the plane around, they would have had time to press the button for a distress signal or to notify whomever that something was going on. So something happened that is not being explained properly. Also, they are saying, of course, when you go on the news, it says that it could have been extreme turbulence, pilot error, or even suicide. And then they bring up the issues of Swiss Air, which they said was an onboard mechanical failure, Egypt Air, which they said was a pilot suicide, Air France, which they said was a pilot error and mechanical, all of which are cover stories because we know the truth. Egypt Air was hit by a missile, Swiss Air was hit by some kind of weapon from a satellite above, had several meters of burnt shell on top of the fuselage of hundreds of degrees of temperature that caused it to crash. And Air France, of course, they didn't make the cover story until 2 years after the crash because they had to blame it. They couldn't, blame it on anybody else. So there's all these things going on. And another question comes up is why would terrorists choose to bomb a Malaysian airline from a predominantly Muslim country? Why a plane going to Beijing? Doesn't make sense. No group has claimed responsibility. And if this had been a terrorist act, someone would have said, yes, we did it, haha, like they always do. But no, the weather was clear. The pilots were experienced, thousands and thousands of hours tens of thousands of hours of experience. You can't fly a 777 on a modern airline and have no experience. These people knew what they were doing and what they would have to do. Just like the Air France pilots had thousands of hours, they did not make those errors. So there's a lot of things that are not being said and probably will not be said. But what I also find very interesting is how the so-called experts disagree or actually conflict with each other. Because let's say Jason Middleton, who's the head of the Sydney-based University of New South Wales School of Aviation, said that terrorism or some form of foul play seemed the likely explanation. But now, a counter-terrorism expert, Clive Williams, who is an expert at the Australia's Macquarie university and a former military intelligence officer, said, now get this, he doubted the 2 stolen passports aboard the flight were related to the disaster. He says any flight of that size in Asia would be carrying a couple of people with false passports. And when you think about the number of passports that have been stolen or gone missing around the world, it could be related, but probably not.
That's
really?
Very
so
odd.
every time you're on a crowded jumbo jet, there's a few people that have fake passports on, their stolen passports. That's nice to know.
Does not make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Not from our extensive travel.
Now, here's something,
experience.
but now let's go to the U.S. expert. Because in the U.S., they said that passports are routinely checked against Interpol database. And even in the United States, we have a tremendous problem with our documentation. The driver's license, said Mary Schiavo, former Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Transportation. You know what she said? Everything can be forged and faked here. And she also expressed surprise that 2 potentially stolen passports may have been used to board the flight. It's rare that you have 1 stolen passport, much less 2 stolen passports on a flight. Well, that contradicts with what the Australian just said. He was surprised there wasn't more. So I think this is a big gray smoke screen. And then, but listen to this woman, Schiavo. Now, remember, she was a former general inspector of the U.S. Department of Transportation. She says, American citizens have to have visas, and you can't get on board the plane without showing the visa. Well, first of all, they weren't American passports. And second of all, if she had a brain in her head, she would know that China said if you leave within 72 hours, you don't need a frickin' visa. So she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. So who do you believe? Now, Interpol said that there are 39 million records of stolen travel doc. 39 million.
Are there that many people?
And get this, 1 billion passengers per year are not checked against the list.
I just don't see, for our travel experience.
1 billion people are not freaking checked. So why are you going up my underwear and in my private parts when you're not checking 1 billion people? That disturbs me.
Of course.
That really disturbs me, so I'm ranting, you understand? So that takes care of the, well, unfortunately, look, they said they found two 10-kilometer long oil spills in the Gulf of Thailand, but no debris. They found, and I quote, they put this in quote, suspicious objects that turned out to be not from the plane. So what the hell were those suspicious objects floating around on the water, huh?
I wonder if it's possible if the plane dumped fuel, if that's what they found as it was turning around for whatever reason.
Well, first of all, my thing is, if it turned around, it had time to send a distress signal. The Gulf of Thailand is only 100 meters deep. That plane is almost that big. So even if it went straight down, something will be sticking out somewhere. Very strange.
The thing that was odd to me is that 2 hours after it disappeared, they were already announcing that they were going to be doing a press conference the next day. So it's like if it's gone for 2 hours and you know that it's gone, why are you waiting 2 hours, or why are you waiting until the next day to do a press conference? That did not make any sense. And they immediately started busing in the families into China.
Well, and first of all, and 20 employees of a high-tech company in Texas were on board that plane. Now, I don't know what that company actually does or what those people on the plane, what their specialties were. I'm not suggesting that that's the reason, but this was obviously planned for a very long time. Both passports stolen in Thailand. By the way, I didn't mention, both tickets were purchased in Thailand in Thai money on China Southern Airlines at the same time. So I think that they need to look at the ground staff in Kuala Lumpur. They need to look at wherever the tickets were purchased in Thailand. It seems to be quite a global effort to get these people on board to do whatever they did to that plane.
Well, but then go ahead with what you talked about, what's going to happen to Malaysia now.
Well, I've known for many years, in fact since 2003 2003, when Iraq was invaded, which I'm going to get to something there, in 2003, there was a plan by George Bush to control all the countries from the Middle East all the way to Southeast Asia, Malaysia being one of them because it's a Muslim country. So it's very possible that a motivation here is to make the Malaysians look bad, irresponsible, and need control. Because let me tell you something, it wouldn't have happened if it came from China. They found the fake passports, they would chop their heads off, execute them at the airport. So anyway,
so do you think
it's a shame what happened to those people.
But there's going to be military unrest now in Malaysia.
There's going to be something happening in Malaysia, and you're going to see the same thing in Indonesia and unfortunately Singapore, all connected. Malaysia does allow Al-Qaeda and other fundamentalist groups and terrorist groups to open bank accounts. They don't question them. So we have a situation where maybe this was some kind of an intelligence operation. And of course they're going to blame the pilot, or they'll blame something that had nothing to do with it. And we probably will never know the cover story for a couple of years, just like happened with Air France. It took them a couple of years to figure out, to make up a story about weather, pilot error, and equipment failure, which none of that was true. Now, on to another sore topic, which will probably upset a lot of people when I talk to you about it. It's the second story on the news now, and that is what's going on in Ukraine. Now, people, you can look up all the news stories on Fox, CNN, BBC, AOL, whichever ones you want to look. They're all going to be anti-Russia. They're all going to be, poor Ukraine, let's help the EU, all that stuff. First of all, Crimea, or the province that's in the southern part of Ukraine, Crimea, was part of Russia until 1954. It was only then that Khrushchev ceded the Crimean Peninsula to Ukraine, which was at that time part of the USSR, because he wanted to help boost the economy there. The Russian Navy was based there. He wanted to boost things up for the Ukrainians, and so he ceded that area. But over 60% of the people in that region and in eastern Ukraine are Russian. And here's the other thing. Remember when Putin spoke to Obama, he said Ukraine's not even a state, it's not even a country. Why? First of all, the name Ukraina, that's the name, means borderland. It means it's the border. It was the border of the Russian Empire and the rest of Europe for centuries. In fact, the Russian Empire began in Kiev after the establishment by the Vikings. And so this is part of history that, of course, the West, they never teach it. But the whole situation is also a big power play between the new Soviet Union, which I predicted years ago, and a new EU superstate, which would love to have all the resources and population of Ukraine in part of their territory. Now, I understand most Russians do not like Putin, and the people I know in Russia tell me all the time they don't like Putin, but they like the expansion of Russia. So when we hear about the Russian aggression and the Russian occupation and invasion, well, let's think about this, people. Where are the biggest noise coming from? United States, UK, and Germany. Germany should not be talking about how other people invaded other countries. I'm sorry. You can't go there. Neither can France. Let's remember Napoleon. And the United Kingdom, well, they screwed up the entire planet with their invasions and colonizations of almost every continent and changing borders. It's their fault that the Middle East borders are the way it is. No, UK cannot say anything about Russia.
Well, UK is German-based.
It's German-based.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah. Now, US, well, let's see. Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Grenada, and let's remember, most of the western US was stolen from Mexico. So you're talking about a peninsula and you're complaining, US? No.
But we also stole it from the indigenous peoples.
Well, that's even besides the point. So no, US has no business complaining of anybody else invading anybody else. Now, I'm not a supporter of any invasion. And I was going to kind of do like this thing like you did on Russia Today, where the reporters like quit me, you know, like do you think? But I can't because Janet won't let me quit.
That's right.
And I had no place to go. So anyway, I have to stay on the Expansions News podcast. And I'm not supporting any invasion. I think everybody needs to leave everybody alone, live in peace wherever they want to live, and who cares about borders? You know, I think there should be no borders anywhere.
But the issue is that they're making it something on the news.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, it is about a power play between Soviet Union, new Soviet Union, and new EU superstate, which, by the way, EU people, you're in a dictatorship. You do not vote for the people who make your legislation. All the ones in Strasbourg who make the legislation are appointed by others you didn't vote for. So don't talk about dictatorships and occupation by other countries when you need to look at your own stuff. Now this is going to hopefully get a lot of comments, I think. Yeah, I might even get a job now on Russia Today. I'm not sure. It's possible.
Everything is possible.
You know, between that and my Academy Award from the movie coming, I mean, seriously.
Who knows?
Yeah. Now, my next story, which irks me, because I'm ranting. Today I'm ranting. I'm sorry, but I just have to let me finish ranting. The weather. Look, I hardly ever talk about the weather, right?
True.
Now, I just want to say, all winter long, there have been fake radars of storms. We have looked out the window to heavy snow. I look on the radar, it's clear. Or they predict, you know, a certain amount of snow and there's 15 times that. What is up, people in the weather department? Fake radar, fake temperatures. Once they had like, you know, way above freezing and it was, you know,
10.
Blizzard outside. Yeah. So it's like, where did they get that temperature from? And why I'm saying this is because 2 days ago, the National Weather Service says, hey, guess what? There's an El Nino forming in the South Pacific. That means the water's getting warmer. And that means next winter, it's going to be really warm. Well, let me think. Gee, they said that last year, and we had the coldest, snowiest winter ever. And if you can't predict the weather on the same freaking day, don't tell me what next year's going to be like, okay? So all you people in the weather department, look out the window. Okay, I'm almost finished ranting. I have one more rant. And that is not actually a rant, it's a warning. Today there was another 4.7 quake between Cuba and Florida. Now, there's no fault line there. And about 35 years ago, I saw information that showed Miami being hit by an earthquake and tsunami, which of course was unheard of because they don't have them. But this is the second one, people. So any of you living in Key West, South Florida, the northern part of the Caribbean, I think you better keep your eyes on what's going on because something is happening. Okay, I'm done.
You're done? Wow.
Yes, I'm done.
How can I follow up that out?
I got the vapors. I'm so hot and sweaty from venting. Yes, I do declare.
Well, I wanted to just say one small thing.
Good. Now we're finished?
No, about the Ukraine, myself. Because this was a story that I found particularly telling. It says that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton compared Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent activities in the Ukraine to Adolf Hitler's population
She's calling someone else Adolf Hitler.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yes, that's what I found. And of course, this is something I never heard about, and they're bringing up all these things that we've never heard about. But they said in the 1930s, during a closed, this is what she said in a closed Boys and Girls Club of Long Beach fundraiser on Tuesday. That's what she said.
A Boys and Girls Club?
That's what she
said.
Were there
boys and girls in the audience?
Maybe, but she said about population transfer. She says it's what Hitler did back in the 30s. She said that this refers to Putin's plan to issue Russian citizenship to those in Ukraine's Crimean region.
And me.
Quote, all the Germans that were the ethnic Germans, the Germans by ancestry, who were in places like Czechoslovakia and Romania and other places. Hitler kept saying they're not being treated right. I must go and protect my people, and that's what's gotten everyone so nervous, unquote.
Really?
I found that interesting because we've seen this happen in even the U.S. and the Southwest. They have let all the Mexican and the Central Central American people.
Did you strike me? Did you just strike me on camera?
I did.
I'm glad there's witnesses.
Central America people all the way up, and remember what you just said, that we took, the U.S. took all this area
Most of
from
Mexico.
That's right, so they could do this, and we've heard this before, that this is going back to Mexico, this particular region. And we talked about it in Finland, how the Russian people were there, and so therefore Russian considers that part of Finland.
Well, Russia always considered Finland a province of their territory.
But interestingly enough, what she is telling, because they usually say what happens anyway, is that where we have these ethnic populations, then it makes it much easier for the conquering country, if you want to call it that, for lack of better words, then to come over and say, oh, you know, you're part of us. Oop, you're part of us.
So if all the expatriates living in Mexico and Ecuador and wherever, and Costa Rica, if they have a problem, would she go and protect them?
Well, see, here we go. We don't know. And what a better way to make it, well, we have so many Americans living in Central America and South America, so, and you have so many Central American and South Americans living in the U.S., let's just make it all one country and give everybody the same citizenship.
She wants
that. That's
that.
the plan.
But she calling someone else Hitler, that's hilarious.
But we're seeing it happen.
That's hilarious.
We're seeing that happen over there, and so if it goes successfully, it's very likely that we could see the same thing happen here quite easily.
Well,
so that's why I wanted to bring that out, because again, things that are kind of hidden, but right in front of our faces. Now, on to, again, another Russian issue.
Those my peeps.
Those are your people.
Those my peeps.
This story...
Don't worry, when they invade here, I'll make sure they don't do anything to you.
Thank you. Ancient virus was resurrected from 30,000-year-old ice in Siberia.
Okay. How do they know how old the ice is?
Well, see, these are...
We have ice cubes that are that old in my refrigerator.
So here we go. They're still bringing up the Siberia influence, scare tactics, old viruses. It says it's still infectious. Its targets, however, fortunately are amoeba, but now this one you're going to love. The researchers suggest that as Earth's ice melts, because we can see, as we look at our window, global warming, this could trigger the return of other ancient viruses with potential risks for human health. Now, scientists are saying that they are concerned because of rising global temperatures, along with mining.
Not here isn't global rising temperatures.
And drilling operations in the Arctic, that it could thaw out many more ancient viruses that are still infectious.
That was a science fiction movie.
Yeah?
Where they drilled and they found some virus and it affected everybody, or maybe I hallucinated the whole thing, I don't know.
No, we saw that on, there was a show, Dark Skies, I think it was called, where the virus got into people from there.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's still saying that the scientists are pointing out that people already inhale thousands of viruses every day, and he's more concerned about the hundreds of millions of people who will be displaced by rising sea levels. So they're still perpetuating... We could just send them to Ukraine. I guess, but they're still perpetuating global warming here, which is, to me, is just...
I mean, seriously.
Ridiculous.
People. The ice caps have expanded 60% in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's a glacier outside here in the middle of March, almost spring. There's no global warming.
Okay, but then now you're going to love this. This is the next one. That there's a crystal which has been confirmed as the oldest known piece of Earth.
Really?
Yes, on a sheep farm in Australia.
Of course, where else would it be?
Scientists from the University of Wisconsin found what they believe is the oldest piece of Earth ever discovered.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Earth made at the same time?
As I said, it's crazy what they're putting out there.
Does it matter where the rock is from? Wasn't the Earth made at once?
Well, this is they found a zircon crystal which is 4.4 billion years old. That's almost as old as the Earth itself, which is thought to be 4.5 billion years. Now, listen to this. This is the study's lead researcher, Professor John Valley, via the University of Wisconsin, says, quote, "This confirms our view of how the Earth cooled and became habitable. This may also help us understand how other habitable planets would form." How these tie together, I don't know.
They don't even know.
They don't know, but they're talking again about habitable planets. So they're continuing to bring that forward because, again, there's ludicrous stories. So I think they must have a department to put out ludicrous stories that people will believe.
Oh, they make most of it up.
But how do they coordinate? Somehow they have to be coordinating this.
But I just, how can one piece of the earth be older than the other piece?
Or how can they just find this one on a little, on a sheep farm versus, in the desert or under the sea or
I'm
in a
going to go find a
cave.
rock in our ravine that's 4.6 billion and throw them all off.
Yeah, it's silly. Now talking about silly, now the next legal question. Remember last time we talked about the fatwa on Mars?
Hey, watch your language.
Now we're going to talk about who owns the moon. This is the next thing that people are very concerned about, apparently. Because according to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs...
There's an Office for Outer Space Affairs.
Apparently, there's a lot of stuff going on here. The moon is not the property of any state, national, or international government or organization or any one entity.
Right, it's the property of Russia.
The legal status of the moon is currently defined by the 1967 Outer Space Treaty of the United Nations. But that may change because they're saying that the moon has rare minerals such as well as helium-3 isotope, which is important gas for allowing the production of energy. So whoever has the rights to the moon will also have those resources. Now I thought this was interesting because it reminded me of what we have found out in our journeys about Svalbard and Antarctica, all these places that are not owned by one particular nation, but just because, or even we talked about the Arctic ambassador last time.
Right, there's a walrus.
I guess. So they're finding all these things and they're just throwing everything out there into the mix of who owns what and who's going to do what. To me, again, it's all leading toward one world government, which of course
it is already.
Well, it already exists, but now they're telling people and they're putting these things out there because people are going to get the drift sooner or later as soon as they start pulling in the net. Now, also on Mars, people might have been reading about the Mars blueberries. See,
yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And again, this is all about ancient, old, owning, habitable planets, all this stuff, which it's out there. I want you to be aware of it. First of all, they said they're hematite balls that might be remnants of a meteorite and are only a very few years old. However, now they're saying that its spheres formed from meteorites that broke up on the red planet's atmosphere many years ago. So they're continuing to put this
just like
forward.
The donut they found.
Yeah.
There's probably Dunkin' Donuts up there. Blueberries, donuts.
That's
Hello.
what they said, like blueberries in a muffin.
They're probably getting film of like the back garbage area from that Dunkin' Donuts on Mars.
I'm sure that's what's happening, but all of it, like I said, is just very odd.
That's what I say it is.
It's very odd. Now, this next one, I've got a couple.
There's more?
I have a couple more.
I haven't got all day.
Well, it's because you took all day.
I had a rant.
You keep ranting a lot. Anyway, Miley Cyrus, which of course she's not going away, and in her last concert in Las Vegas, it had a huge thing all over the internet about her making out, not just kissing, but making out lip to lip with a female fan. And now my feeling is that, first of all, the female fan said that she really liked it. Second of all, these are staged events, which a lot of people don't realize. And it made me think about, and I don't know if you have this on your computer, but when I scroll down a lot of times, there's oftentimes pictures of Ellen DeGeneres kissing a female on the sidebar. I don't know, is that on your computer?
No.
It's on mine all the time.
That's only your weird computer.
On my weird computer. Well, the thing that I'm thinking to myself, this, it's in my peripheral vision. I don't want to see couples. I don't want to see anybody kissing on my sidebar.
Well,
it's
especially
just there.
what if Miley caught one of those 30,000-year-old viruses?
Well, that's possible.
That woman's mouth. Maybe she was licking the ice in that place.
With that tongue of hers, that could be.
Yeah.
But again, this is what they're putting out. They're pushing into the frequencies. They're making you feel it, see it, whether you want to see it or not. It's there. So just continue to keep up your protection and do those things and do your best not to let this stuff influence you. Now, this was an interesting story about tainted meat. A Tampa police family say that a family of 4 ate tainted meat on Monday, which they determined was contaminated with LSD and was purchased from a Walmart in Tampa. And the woman was pregnant, like I said, induced labor or whatever.
Yep.
But again, it's making you afraid for your food source. I mean, if you can't trust Walmart.
I think now they're going to get popular selling meat at Walmart.
That's possible for a certain crowd. But the issue is, again, first of all, how did they trace it back? How did that whole family get it in? And why are they blaming it on Walmart? I mean,
because look, it did come from Walmart.
We don't know that. We don't know it was even in there.
They're lucky it was only LSD that was in there.
But here's my point. You know, if we eat something at home, there's nothing left to test.
Are you trying to say that I overeat?
It's eaten. So we don't have stuff to test. So why, you know, to me, again, it just sounds like a way of making you be afraid of your food source. And the average person out there who doesn't think twice about shopping at Walmart.
No, the person who shops at Walmart doesn't think.
Well, we don't know that.
Let alone twice.
No. Anyway, it's scaring people.
I am or they are?
Everybody.
Oh.
You too. Okay, then we have, according to scientists in Finland, that they have...
There are scientists in Finland?
They are, and they might be part of the Russians for all we know.
Oh, for God's sake, what the hell did they invent in Finland? Oh, well, Nokia.
No, listen to this. What? They invented the death test, which aims to predict the time of death. Now this puzzles me because they said researchers discovered the test by taking blood samples from more than 17,000 people in generally good health.
There isn't 17,000 people in Finland.
That was my point exactly. How did they get these 17,000 people to volunteer if they did, or is it just another number?
They probably told them it was vodka for them.
I don't know. They said that they tested them for more than 100 chemicals found in your body. Then 5 years later, how did they get these same 17,000 people to donate blood, I guess? 5 years later,
Finland.
They compared the samples to those still alive to, quote, those not so fortunate.
How did they... It's Finland. How did they know if they were alive anyway?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry, Finland, but it's a boring place.
Yeah. So they're saying that apparently now they can predict within 5 years of the time you're going to die. And they, of course, the reason they're doing it...
I'm not taking that blood test.
The reason they're doing it, they're claiming, is because once you learn this, it will help you dodge death.
Really?
Well,
they ain't going to dodge the Soviet invasion. I'm sorry, Finland. You could test all you want, but they're coming over the border.
Well, anyway, I thought that was a very, very strange report. Now, this is my last strange report.
Oh, thank God.
The last one. Now, I don't know about you because, you know, you look at different websites than I do, but what I have noticed, all over the internet, I find snakes. Have you noticed that?
I am putting a filter on your computer.
Okay, now this is a weird thing. First of all, they showed a snake swallowing an alligator.
Let us see that one.
Then they showed a woman catching water snakes and even being bitten and laughing about it. And I don't know, she caught like 20 snakes.
Was she from Finland?
No, she was in the U.S. That she was being bitten and then she dumped the snakes back into the water after catching like 20 of them. And not too long ago, there was a snake handling preacher from the South who was bitten and died.
Well, yes.
And that's been on the news
that
on
wasn't
and
right.
off. Then they showed a man in Australia who was hunting these second most venomous snakes on the planet, huge things.
My family?
He put these snakes down rabbit holes to chase the rabbits out.
That's mean.
And then he caught the rabbits. So he showed you how to hunt rabbits by using
poisonous snakes. Then you eat the rabbits. That's brilliant.
Then they had...
That's why Australia is not a major world power.
They had a contortionist called Snake Woman, who was dressed in skin-tight, forming snakeskin outfit, who moved her body all over the place.
I bet she did.
And it was so creepy, I couldn't even watch the whole thing.
Why didn't you show me?
They called her Snake Woman.
I would have watched that.
No, it was creepy. And then the last one, now this was also interesting. They showed a man catching an anaconda with his foot.
How did he do that?
He wrapped his leg in rags, and then he puts like, I guess, snake bait smell on it. Yeah. This was in...
he also isn't too bright. Is he from Finland?
No, he's not from Finland, and he had 3 or 4 of his friends. And then they found an anaconda hole, I guess, in the ground. And then he went and he stuck his foot
He's bright.
down into the...
He's going to go far.
Not just his foot, his whole leg into this hole.
Brilliant
with
man.
his friends sitting around waiting. And when the snake chomped on him, then his friends drug him out with the anaconda hooked onto his leg, this like 20-foot snake.
Yeah, and what are they going to do with it?
Well, then they killed it and whatever else they do with snakes. I don't know. But my point being is that snakes, they're all over the internet right now.
Okay, that person should be dropped in Afghanistan.
But I'm telling you, it's not just one person. It's all these people are showing you snakes. And that has to do with reptilian type religion and all the things that are coming forward. New World religion. I mean, snakes are going to be everywhere and your people are going to be used to it. So I just found these stories not only creepy, but extremely odd.
I find all your stories creepy.
Well, maybe
and I find you odd.
I was going to say people might find you creepy. Just about that.
Well, I don't go on the websites you go on.
Well, it's just there, and these are the things that are interesting because they're out there influencing people right now, and people don't even know they're being influenced. That's the point of what we do, right? We want you to know what's going on out there so you can make informed decisions and not allow this
People
stuff
do not
in your
stick
life.
your foot in an anaconda hole.
No, do not catch snakes. Do not go out rabbit hunting with venomous snakes.
Do not take blood tests in Finland.
No.
No.
And dig in your backyard for
And
old
please
rocks.
don't invade Crimea. Yeah.
Okay. Or fly on those terrible planes.
I
And
would not go on Malaysia Airlines anymore.
Especially using a fake passport. That's bad.
Yeah,
bad news.
seriously.
Well, I guess maybe
But
now
apparently,
they don't check
everyone
them.
has them.
1 billion people are not checked.
Yeah, but
Incredible.
still, they checked me 1 billion times, so that I took it for the rest of them.
Inside and outside, I guess so.
That's great. I'm glad we have all that security.
Right, yeah, it makes no sense. So this is why don't fear. It's easy to be in fear right now because of what they're throwing out there, but don't be in fear. You can't be that way.
No.
You can't live a life that way.
Don't be if you're in Michigan.
No, be in Michigan. We
And
want
you'd
you
be
to
cold.
Yeah, but you're going to be in a good place.
And no anacondas.
No, anacondas. You cannot go snake hunting here. So
No.
if you're going snake hunting, do not come here.
Although there are rattlesnakes, but I think they're under the ground now.
I don't know where they are. They're hibernation right now with the cold.
I would hope so.
But remember, we do have in April, we do have our Finding Your Frequency, not finding snakes, but finding your frequency seminar coming up. So please join us here in Michigan for that. And here in just a few days,
Hopefully this will be posted before.
hopefully it will be posted before, and it will be. We will be on Friday, March 14, New York City, Meta Center, for a free lecture there, followed by 2 days of
Anaconda hunting.
personal consultations, and we have those filling fast already. So if you're interested in consultations, be sure and contact Patricia, customer support at expansions.com.
Yep.
In my March blog, I am dealing with your financial flow and monergy. So if you have issues with that, please join my blog because we're doing great work on the membership side, helping you to find out where your financial flow blocks are and opening that door so it can
What
flow.
about the blocking the flows like within your body?
All of those things are indicative of what's going on in the mind pattern. So
I think I have a couple of blocks in my flows.
correct the mind pattern, and the flows in the physical body will also open up as well. Or vice versa, but we're working from the mental standpoint. So it's a great blog this month in March. And of course in May, you will be in Japan investigating more things about radiation.
Yes, I will personally have myself irradiated to prove that it is not dangerous.
So we're going to continue that interesting line of research.
Yes.
Anything else?
And then I will actually use the radiation on my legs to catch sushi in the ocean.
I like that. Just bring some sushi home for me. And we do have some tremendous March specials going on. Please check the homepage of the website. We have lots of interesting things. We are never dull and boring, and our site is never dull
Well,
and boring.
I'm not.
Never dull and boring.
Finland is dull and boring.
Well, not if they're out giving blood all the time. 17,000 people in a line,
I mean, how?
and then they probably put
Because
on
there's nothing to do.
Well, they put on-
Oh, I think we'll just give blood today.
but they wait for 5 more years to do it again.
Well, they have a choice. Let's either give blood or let the Russians across the border. It's the choice.
No.
You know, it's really sad.
So for you Finnish people out there, we do love you, but be aware.
Yeah, you keep boring. Anyway, on that note, I'm sure we will hear from our audience, especially the Finnish ones. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.